we also know that issues of our democracy and its effects are also remaining topical. And subsequently, when we had the by-election at the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency, or the fallout led to the president being compelled to compose a commission of inquiry. So the Justice Emil Chot's commission has been sitting since Thursday, and on Monday we had some interesting submissions by the witnesses. And we'll start with the leader of the SWAT team, or the commander himself, DSP Azugu. We bring you those highlights. When we come back, we'll have some discussions among ourselves and try to do some analysis of all that has transpired since Monday. Stay with us.
Mission that you, as the commander of the day and present at the scene, did not see anything?
Oh, my lord, I'm saying that even the video confirms it, my lord.
No, I want you to tell me.
Yes,
what do you say? Forget about videos. Let's stay with you. You are the commander of the SWAT team. On the day you were present,
yes,
DSP, how did your men handle these citizens of Ghana?
It was not in the proper manner. They did not handle them in a professional way, the way they were taught to.
And by not handling them in a professional manner, what exactly are you saying? We need to know as a commission.
Based on that, we have initiated disciplinary action.
DSP, since you are struggling to tell us, let me help you.
Yes, my lord.
Did your men beat these people up?
No, sir. Their idea of minimum force that we saw on TV was, too much for all of us.
DSP,
they were trying to
DSP,
minimum force to subdue them.
Before you go on, please, let me remind you of your oath.
Yes, my lord.
Okay. We are not here to persecute anybody.
Yes, my lord.
The commission needs to get to the bottom of this.
Yes, my lord.
And we want you, as I told you, to be as candid as possible.
Yes, my lord.
Please.
Yes, my lord.
Tell the commission, what exactly did your men do to these people?
My lord, as I stated already, when the 9 persons were arrested, some of them surrendered peacefully and were taken to the vehicle, but some decided to run away from lawful arrests. And the boys pounced on them. And the mood and the way they were handled, that's why I'm saying that it amounted to a subject of action against. And all this while there was gunfire. There was gunfire. And at that particular moment, my concern was for the Honorable MP, because I could not see him again. I only saw him also moving towards that direction. But from there, I did not see him again. So I was worried. I said, what is going on? Because he can be hit by any, friendly bullet, or anybody at all can cause harm to him. And this will be a problem on security. So we decided, I asked them boys to arrest those who could not enter the compound and were trying to escape and run away. So we managed to arrest 9 of them for them to help investigators to establish why that action. And some of them surrendered and they were taken to the vehicles. But some on their way decided to, run away, decided to put up resistance to their arrest. So they managed to, shrug off the security men, decided to run, and the security men pounced on them. And that one, I agree that on that one, my boys overreacted when they were rearresting them. Then they put them, I made sure that they were arrested and we put them in the vehicles.
Well, so we have to do some discussions on our own, do some analysis, and then we'll call some experts on the line if we can. But one person who has been monitoring the issues for us has been Joseph Kofi Frimpong Akable. He's right here, and Kojo, it's good that we have him as well.
It is, isn't it? Akablazing himself. You've been
you and the names for people. Akablazing.
Yes. you've been up close and personal with some of the most celebrated, notorious Ghanaians so far in the.
Those are his words.
Yes.
Not mine, obviously.
Yeah.
They can't be my words.
Yes, yes. So far in the the proceeding. Yesterday, the nation got to know Mr. Azugu. We got to know him.
The commander of the SWAT.
Yes, indeed.
The mosquito repellent.
You know, when you do this, do you know what you are doing? You are swatting.
Yeah, swatting.
A mosquito.
Anti-malaria max.
So, yeah, tell us about how this all unfolded. Up close and personal. How were the commission? Because we can only see on screen. We can only see the witness at a time. We don't quite get to see the reactions of the commissioners to what is being said. Tell us about that. How were they reacting to the testimony?
In terms of the commissioners, their body language, they don't give much out. I mean, the only time where you get them go all out and make comments about how they feel about someone's testimony was when the PPP's National Secretary testified yesterday. In fact, the commission went to the extent of telling him that they feel that he has been very candid with them and that they hope if his party is able to win power eventually, he is able to carry that forward into government. That is if they give him an appointment in government. So in terms of the other days, the commissioners have been very measured. They keep their reaction. They simply ask the questions direct. And there are individuals who, when they come in and they give their testimony, you know that the commissioners will not ask too many questions. Yesterday, DSP Azugu, who leads the SWAT unit, that's the longest testimony that we've heard so far because it lasted more than 3 hours. We started at 10 a.m. When he was let go, it was around 2 p.m. And it was because of the number of questions. Mostly you have a Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu who asks many questions. Then you have Justice Shorts asks few questions. Then in terms of Patrick Achiampa, the former IGP, when it's issues relating to the police officer, sometimes you have him asking some few questions. But yesterday, interestingly, Justice Shorts started instead, and he asked a lot of questions. And when he ended, we all thought that would be all. But then the other commissioners took their turns and they asked a number of questions as well. So in terms of what we've observed so far, yesterday was the longest duration-wise.
But we also noticed that since Thursday, and we've gone through the Friday proceedings and yesterday's, it looks like the accounts ideally should have been related, but they seem to be at variance with each other. Especially you look at first, those who have been appointed into ministerial positions and so would have the agencies reporting to them, and then subsequently the agencies having their subordinates also reporting to them. The accounts don't seem to maybe synchronize, all right?
To be fair, all those who have showed up so far in terms of the ministers, they kept making the point, they kept referring to someone that they believed had the access to the information. So they always mention a source. And 2 individuals have come up all the time. That is the SWAT commander, DSP Azugu, who testified yesterday, and the director of operations at the National Security, Colonel Opoku, who is yet to testify. So those are the 2 names that have consistently been referred to by all those who have come, aside from the Minister of Interior, who said they don't even know the man. So his testimony was quite brief. But the National Security Ministers who came, they made reference to these 2 individuals.
As having what?
As having first-hand information. So the information they were reporting was information they obtained from these 2 individuals.
As to?
The various things, why the shooting happened, the number of gunshots, all those informations were things that they obtained from these 2 individuals. Now, in terms of the narrative, so a question like the mask, why they wore the mask. Now, when National Security Minister was asked, he responded that the mask is not something that is new, but in terms of the specific reason why they wore it that day, he couldn't tell, and that he thinks that the commander will be the best person to tell that. Now the commander comes in and he's asked, and he gives two scenarios. He says first, either mosquitoes or
analogies.
Analogies,
he said,
yes, analogies. He said, yes.
Scenarios.
So either mosquitoes or.
But they're all the same, I think.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily, I guess. So in terms of the first being that mosquitoes, or the second being whether the possibility that the operatives may be returning to the same area, so they may be identified. Then he is asked the follow-up question that why did they wear the mask on this particular day? Then his response is that he doesn't know. So this is the individual that we had been told previously had access to this particular information. Now he comes and he says he doesn't have access to that information. And he goes on to make the point that, in fact, when they were setting off, he didn't see his men in mask, but he rather saw it during the entire operation. So that is the first.
Are a lot of members of the public attending these hearings?
No. It's in terms of the room, you just have some officers from. You have some police personnel there. You have some officers we understand are from national security. You also have the commissioners, their clerks, the council. Then you have journalists present. The only time you have people coming in is when they are part of the team that comes in. So when the interior minister came, he came with someone from the ministry. Same with the national security ministers and the others who have also come.
Right. Now, I know that we also have on the phone lines a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Alidu Seidu. Let's bring him into the conversation. Dr. Seidu, good morning. Thank you very much for your time with us. There you are.
Good morning to our listeners.
Yes.
Fine by grace.
Wonderful. Now, you've been following. Yesterday, Mr. Azugu's testimony, for some, it actually gave context to some of the testimony we had heard before. Because he was the one on the ground executing orders. But for others, it contradicted what they had heard before, because the ministers and appointees had made it clear that this task force or this SWAT team, their deployment had nothing whatsoever to do with the election. But yesterday we heard that they were actually there to boost confidence for those who were participating in the election, and then to possibly cordon off and search a specific location suspected of being the premises of stockpiled arms. So I wonder, for you, how yesterday's testimony in particular struck you?
Thank you, Kojo. I think so far the work of the commission, from the perspective, the work of the commission so far has been confusing. Not so much about the commissioners and the work they do. The commissioners have been fantastic so far, professional, and they ask a lot of probing questions. And I've seen that they brought a lot of their experience from either being an IGP or a former law lecturer, all those things, to bear in the type of questions that they ask. My problem has been the witness. They have been disappointed so far. Especially most of the testimonies we heard yesterday from somebody who was on the ground commanding these people, and basic explanation about mostly the accoutrements that these people use and its significance and why they use them and all those things. He wasn't very clear, and the explanation wasn't actually satisfactory to me, and I believe maybe to most of the listeners. There are three things we should look at here. One, the mandate of the commission. The commission has several spells, but we can summarize it into three. The first has to do with unraveling the circumstances, and then the facts that surround what happened at the election. So far, we are not very clear. One, it was especially the kind of the SWAT team or whatever they were called, were they deployed based on intelligence, to retrieve suspected weapons, or were they there to boost confidence, or were they there to respond to a crisis or emergency? So far, we are not very clear about this.
Well, the person who commands them has explained what his orders were, to the commission. Yes.
But Kojo, what confidence is needed for the ordinary voter who, though it's a civic right, but it's a matter of choice? Boosting confidence in the election has to be done by the direct beneficiaries of the electoral process, political parties. And political parties are not supposed by law to campaign on the voting day. What the security services were supposed to do was to be around to satisfy the fact that there is security, and then people can come out to vote in a very sound and perfect manner. But you see, you don't boost security by deploying people in a manner that they were deployed, as if they were going to fight Boko Haram or something else. So, honestly speaking, the costume that they put on, the way that they appeared there, and the manner that they conducted themselves is contrary to the testimony of boosting confidence, seriously speaking. And even the second thing, Kojo, the persons responsible, we don't know. There's still a conflicting report whether these people were actually part of the SWAT team of the police service, or they were political party vigilante groups which were costumed in state security apparatus. That is still something that we are still not very clear of, even though the commission has gone like maybe halfway of their mandate. And then the third is appropriate sanctions. Now, we don't even know the people who were there, and then what will be recommended. That has to do at the end of the work of the commission. But it's a strong political will. So, could you, I'll summarize my observations in 3 points. One, from the word go, the commission suffered a kind of legitimacy crisis, because the NDC, which was a major stakeholder in the electoral process, and those who are portraying themselves as victims of the incident, questioned the legitimacy of the commission from the word go, and they said they are not going to participate. They thought it was a mere window dressing meant to exonerate people who were part or perceived to be part or perpetrated this particular crime. So from the word go, there was this legitimacy crisis. So I was thinking that the work of the commission will be able to get a kind of public legitimacy buy-in by the way they conduct themselves. So far, the commissioners have been good. My problem is just the kind of evidence that we are getting from the witnesses. And second, people have raised questions about what? Prosecution. No, because what happened was purely criminal. And we know that the work of commissions of this time preclude prosecution. And even moving forward, the evidence that they give before these commissions cannot be used against them in a court of competent jurisdiction. The last bit has to do with implementing the findings. If this commission is done and then we're still hanging on to the report and nothing is done, and what would people expect? In a criminal case like this, people want to see the perpetrator being identified, pain inflicted, and then there'll be information moving forward. But if the work of the commission precludes prosecution, then it's a different ballgame altogether. But so far, I was thinking the work of the commission will have helped to reduce the number of narratives that has been paraded and challenged. But I think it is rather confusing us more than setting the record straight.
Well, interesting observations there, Dr. Alidu Seidu.
And there's Roland here. Now, there seemed to be this, I don't know whether it's an anomaly or perhaps the whole detail about the security at the polling area, and then also the conclusion by the Electoral Commission that the actions that were seen or the scenes that were recorded did not affect the voting process. While we know that at La Bauleshi, there were concerns that had been raised that the voting may have stalled for 45 minutes. Now, two, the incident happened in the early hours of the voting process. So between 7 to 8, the media had started reporting these incidents. Then the concern would be, couldn't they have prevented people, knowing that the media was giving some communication on this subject and the concern that had been raised, precluded or prevented people in their minds psychologically from going to polling stations to go and vote?
Yeah, Mr. Walker, I agree with you. I know people explain the low voter turnout, one of the lowest we've had in our by-election history, people explain it based on what happened early in the morning. But you could also see other reasons. But what was more dominating, I think, was the incident. Because if I want to exercise my civic rights, it is the responsibility of the state to create the enabling environment for me to exercise my constitutional rights as a voter and to determine who I want to represent me. Once I begin to realize that there is something that can affect my life or my well-being, even in my attempt to exercise my civic rights, I wouldn't do it. When in normal life situation, when people are faced with danger, they either fight back or they flee. So if people were brandishing weapons and the security agencies themselves who were deployed had to run for cover, then I, a very ordinary citizen, would prefer to be indoors than go out and exercise my franchise. And I believe it was one of the major incidents that affected voter turnout. So if moving forward, I think we have to do things differently. Because, Mr. Walker, there were already police officers there, different security agencies who were deployed to actually provide security for the electoral processes. So if this other group that came later in this GL with mask and all those things, what were they coming to do? Were they coming to reinforce, or there was an intelligence that some people were hiding weapons? And if there was that intelligence, when they came, were they able to utilize the weapons? Those are some of the critical questions that we should be asking. And I think the commissioners has asked these questions several times to people of privileged positions in government and in the security setup. But so far, the answers are not reassuring. The answers are very far from people's ordinary imagination about the truth.
Well, Joseph Akable wants to ask the last question before we wrap up with you.
Doc, there was a suggestion coming from the Progressive People's Party's National Secretary when he testified, and it has to do with how political parties police the ballots. And he says they, as a party, they don't believe in the practice of having polling agents go around, because it's their understanding that it's your work to vote and you leave and you allow the security agencies to protect the ballot. I want to pick your thoughts on that. And the second issue has to do with the bit about whether the EC should allow individuals who are not voters in that particular constituency where an election is taking place to monitor it, like we saw in the Ayawaso West Wagon scenario. What are your own thoughts on that?
So I think polling agents are very crucial to deepening the free, fair, and transparent nature of the electoral process. That's why even we have observer missions from outside even Ghana coming in to observe. Because elections is, democracy is built on competitiveness. And election is one of the moves by which we compete. And just like football, everybody has an interest, and people may not be willing to accept defeat easily. So you always need a third eye to be able to attest to the fact, especially people you trust, attest to the fact that the processes can go clean. Sorry, the processes are free and transparent. That's one. But also two, because of the history of mischief that elements within political parties have injected into our electoral processes, you cannot just trust them, because when you give them the opportunity and there's no any other person there is a tendency that people may want to tamper with the due process, to change the favor of the results, to change the outcome of the results on their favor. So in that instance, it is legitimate that every political party should have people that they can trust. Maybe, I think, forgive me, maybe it's coming from the CPP or the PNC or whatever, but I don't think the NDC will do that, or neither will the MPP, because they are the key dominant political parties, and they know the effect of not filing a polling agent at the polling stations throughout the country. They've seen the consequence in the past, and I don't think they'll repeat that. Second, whether we should allow people who are from the same area to monitor elections. I'm not sure whether that was the question.
Yes, so the concern about whether, so if you pick the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election, you had MP for Nigo Pram Sam George, who was actively in that constituency monitoring. The PPP's General Secretary's view is that they think that national officers for the various parties can be allowed to all areas, but not people who are not directly connected to the election that is taking place in that area, especially when it's not their constituency.
I think it's the decision of the political parties to choose who should go where and monitor. I believe as long as the actions are not interrupting the electoral process, the smooth flow of the voting process, and it's not against the law, I think they have the right to do that. But once you begin to disrupt the processes or act in ways that circumvent the law, I think the police or security agencies can pick you up. But I don't think we need to attach so much conditionality to the smoothness of the electoral process. Other than that, we'll be constricting the environment within which we exercise our choice and the free will to determine who should represent it. And most often than not, you see, these things comes up in by-elections, because in a by-election, the whole national machinery of political parties are invested in a very small constituency. So it becomes very difficult for all these actors to maneuver: civil society, political parties, security, EC officers within a constituency. Usually, at the national level, it's kind of, we have hotspots. So the police already know predetermined hotspots, and they can deploy relative to the dangers that's associated. But the nationwide, we always see that it's mostly small, because Ghana is too big that you can invest so much machinery just in one center, unless that center is very crucial.
Yeah.
So most of these things usually occur in by-elections more than national level kind of elections. And moving forward, I think one of the work of these commissions may be to suggest ways that we can do our by-elections better and to stop violence occurring unnecessarily.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Seydou Alidu, for those interventions.
Yeah, definitely.
Stuff, right?
Senior political science lecturer, University of Ghana. And thank you also, Joseph. And today we have a number of witnesses as well. And we know that you bring us the latest update. Joseph Akablay joining us. He's a man there watching all the reactions of the commissioners, so to speak, and even those who are taking minutes or taking the report, etc.
Watching every reaction.
Yeah, definitely. But we've had Maxwell doing some work.
That's right, yes. Maxwell Agbagba has been speaking to some constituents in the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency on what they make of what has transpired at the commission so far.
But we know University of Ghana forms an important part of the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency. We're here to find out from some of the people here what they make of the Commission of Inquiry sittings. They've been watching keenly. Are we getting any closure, regarding what happened, in this constituency some days ago during that by-election? Let me start off with you first of all, my friend. You've been watching the Ayawaso West Wuogon Commission of Inquiry sittings. I want to find out from you what you make of their work so far.
Well, first of all, when I learned that the Vice President, under the authority of the President, has established a commission of inquiry to look into the excesses of the Ayawaso by-election, I wasn't enthused. I wasn't surprised, because I felt that this country is very noted for setting up committees with competent members, and then after the commission or the committee is done with its work and the recommendations are made, it just ends there. But upon observing the 2 days activities of the Emily Short Commission of Inquiry, I feel I feel like I'm very confident that this time around something positive will come out of it, because before the commission started this work, we all had this story that the people who were believed to perpetuate the acts of violence, that is the men clocked in the national security attack, were not from the police service. And we thought that the National Security Ministry, to some extent, will have detailed information or knowledge about who this man was or where. But judging from my observations of the commission's activities, I saw that they were even confused. So you get the minister or state in charge of national security, Honorable Brian Ichampo, and the Minister for National Security, Honorable Ken Dapa, giving contradictory or questioning account of what the situation on the ground was. So to me, I think something would really come out of this commission.
Well, so far, I am satisfied. As a resident on Legon campus, these things affect us. So if things like this happen, I believe that they have to be probed into. But as my brother said, when these issues are probed into, when the commissions are set and the findings are brought out, nothing is done about it. But so far, so good. I think this time around, we believe that the powers that be will do something about this commission and we'll have a peaceful resolution.
We've had commissions put up, and the expectation is that will come out with recommendations, with the recommendations from these commissions, implemented. But there are times that the recommendations are even shelved, like nothing is really done about it. Are you confident that the Short Commission would be able to put out recommendations that would get the government moving to take the necessary action?
Well, thank you very much. I think The problem that we always have is the government white paper that comes after the commission's report. You see, always when the commission is done with their report, it goes to the government, then the government comes in with a white paper. Remember what happened in when we won for the Brazil World Cup, the result. Yes, so the government white paper will come, and then some of the important things that citizens expect that it should be addressed will be taken out, and the government would like to address what they want to. But then I do not doubt the credibility of this very commission. Look at that, Justice Emil Short. I mean, he has achieved a lot in the Ghanaian system. Looking at Professor Henrietta Bonsu, she is also a competent person, and then the other person and the secretary as well. You see, they are all competent, and I do not doubt in any way the competence of the commission. But then I think that the only challenge has to do with the political infiltration that will go in there after the report is done. For all you know, some ministers, some state agencies or security personnel will be, found fault of or will be culpable of some of the acts that went on. But as to whether the government is willing to take it on is another challenge. So basically, I think that so far, within the first 2 days of the commission's meeting and the people who have so far gone there, looking at their testimony and how they've gone about the issues, I'm confident enough that the commission, to them, they are going to come out with a detailed report which speak to the truth.
He says the issue has to do with its implementation. Cited some examples about how there's a commission of inquiry, their recommendations, white paper presented to president, but really nothing is done about the recommendations. Do you have that fear also? Are you skeptical about the recommendations? Are you skeptical about the implementation of the recommendations that would come out?
No, this time around, I think there will be implementation. There have been commissions.
Okay.
There have been commissions that have been set up, and then their recommendations have been, sidelined and all that. But this time around, the situation at hand is very critical. We are talking about the Ayawaso by-election, and this election is more or less like a reflection of election 2020. The minority is very aggrieved. Citizens are very scared. As at now, every citizen of Ghana is scared. The minority is coming in with boots for boots, boots by boots. Yes, and it instills fear in people. As I'm standing now, I have a feeling that if this similar thing should happen in 2020, there's a probability that war or violence might break out in Ghana. Now, this commission, if not for anything, would implement the recommendation of this commission, if not for anything, will be implemented just to suit down the rage or the anger in people, so that election 2020, everyone would have faith in our institutions that the right thing will be done. So to me, I think this committee's work will not go as will not go wrong or will not go in vain as other commissions have been. There are a lot of people looking into this. This is not just Ghanaians observing it. Now we have the former President John Dramani Mahama inviting diplomats to look into this whole situation. I think this is not just something that is Ghana now, it is international, and if even the Ghanaian government do not look to see to it that the recommendations of the Emily Short committees are put to work, I think other international organizations would step in to see that the right thing is done. So to me, I think this is going to work out.
Okay, he's very hopeful. Let me find out from you, what are you also hoping for after Emil Short's commission is done with their work?
Virtually the same thing. We are just hoping that when everything is done, the recommendations are made, we are just hoping that the government of Ghana will step in to do something good. We will not just bring out the results and we'll put on the shelf, but it will be acted upon no matter who is involved, because this is going to be a true reflection of what is going to happen in 2020. So, during the elections, I was around and the atmosphere was very tensed. It was really, really bad. And this is how, if this was going to happen in 2020, then I think some residents will leave the country for the fear that there will be a war or something. Okay. Because even if a by-election could bring this kind of fear among the residents, then the whole election will be something else. So I believe that if these recommendations are acted upon, it will be.
So that's Maxwell Agbagba having an interaction with some constituents in the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency, especially in relation to issues of vigilantism, the things that may have transpired during the by-election, and of course the fallout of the commission sittings. In the meantime, though, we have to tell you that we'll bring you all the updates, the live feeds from the commission when it starts sitting at 10 o'clock we'll also do in-studio analysis when they're on break, and look at your comments that usually you post on our social media platforms.